What inspired me to write this novel? I got the idea for this novel while I was taking a speculative and fantastical fiction workshop. There was a prompt that talked about a fortune-telling wizard, so I took that idea and made it my own. What advice would you give to aspiring fantasy writers working on their first novel? The biggest piece of advice I would give to an aspiring fantasy writer working on their first novel is to finish the book. It can be really easy to get caught up in new ideas and to switch or to tweak the first chapter a million times and never have a finished piece of work in front of you. So I would say finish what you start. Work on beginning, middles, and ends, and then that'll teach your brain the process. I would also say write your story. This is your creative voice. This is your gift to the world, is what you have to offer. So write the story that is inside of you, write from your experience. And then additionally, read as much as you can and write as much as you can. Can readers expect a sequel or future books set in the same universe? The Fortune-Telling Wizard does have some novellas coming up that will continue his story. And then in the final novella, he meets another character who gets her own, right now it's a trilogy, but if I don't wrap up this final book, with all the ideas that I have, it might be a more continuous series than just a trilogy. And then there are, of course, opportunities to explore other characters and other experiences within the same world. So it's a fun universe for me to be in, and I'm excited and hope that other people will join in the excitement and love the characters and the world and the magic as much as I do. How did you approach the balance between action, dialogue, and description in your writing? I don't actively check the balance for action, dialogue, and description as I'm writing. I think that the focus that I am intent upon is making sure my character is not left alone for too long. I picked that up from someone, and I'm not sure who to give credit to, but they said a character left alone basically is boring. But if you push them into interactions with other characters, then you create chances for dialogue. You give the opportunity for action, because if there is conflict or tension between them, then the actions are going to happen, plus the reactions to those actions, which make for more plot movement, conflict, and additional tension that will drive the story forward. The descriptions also come as a way to tap into the character's senses. So if you're talking about what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what they're hearing, what they're tasting, and what they're smelling, then you're going to give your readers the chance to really know the character, to almost feel like they are, for a moment, that character themselves. And I think that more than a focus on balancing out the three aspects, for me, is a better tactic. Which authors or books influenced your writing style or storytelling approach? Who are some of your current favorite authors? I really enjoy character-driven stories. Those are the ones that I seek out to read, and those are also the ones that I really try to dive in and write. I think that stepping inside a character's experience, in their shoes, in their mind, feeling as if I'm part of their world is really exciting. I think that's one of the most valuable aspects of fiction that we have, is that ability to step into someone else's shoes. And I love that when I'm reading, and I love that when I'm writing. Some of my favorite authors who I believe do this really well are Ursula K. Le Guin. I love her Earthsea trilogy or stories. And Lecky's Ancillary Justice is also a great example of great writing, good science fiction, and good character-driven stories. Martha Wells' The Murderbot Diaries is also highly recommended by me, and maybe one of the best examples of a character who is so relatable, even though it's not quite human. Susanna Clarke's story, fantasy novel, The Piranesi, is maybe one of the best fantasy stories I've read in the last handful of years. And Becky Chambers is also someone I love to read because her stories have these optimistic tilts to them, where they're pointing us towards a way of being better and showing that the world doesn't have to end in disaster and flames, but can be built to something that works for everyone. What themes or messages do you hope readers take away from your story? I know for myself that a lot of time real life feels very daunting. So the messages I want to have in my stories are ones of hope. Um, since that there is magic all around us, that we have an innate magic, whether that's just being alive or the fact that we have consciousness, that's pretty cool. I find that too often we get into these dystopian realms or worst case scenarios. And while my characters do go through struggles, there are hard things that happen. The underlying message is one of hope, that things will work out, that the hard work does pay off, that learning and hard experiences make you into a stronger, more resilient, and sometimes even a better person or creature or magical, whatever you are. Did you outline your story in detail before writing or discover it as you went along? I am definitely a discover as you go along kind of writer. In my early days of writing, I used to think that it was some kind of writer's character flaw, that I couldn't plot every point out, as I had observed other people doing. But I think that there are different styles that work better for different people. And for me, that more discovering, or other people call it writing by the seat of your pants. Another writer calls it writing into the dark. I think that that allows me to find the story as I go and to let the creative voice have the upper hand, rather than letting the critical voice, which says, hey, this work isn't good, you've already used a cliche, they've already said this, why can't you come up with an original idea? I don't want that voice, that critical voice, to take the front seat. I would rather have my creative voice have freedom to really express itself and to tell the story that wants to be told. So I don't outline. I will sometimes have a character arc that I'm driving towards. They want this thing. They're either going to get it or they won't get it by the end. And then it's filling in the middle parts that I work towards. Fantasy often involves complex lore. How did you keep track of your world's rules and continuity? I keep track of my world's rules and continuity. The biggest way I do that is by staying with one project at a time. So I write one story, write it to the end, and then that keeps me in the world and the character and in the character's voice. I find that's very effective. If I have to move back and forth between things, I will also utilize documents, Word documents mostly, to keep lists of the characters' names, the kinds of magic, the situations that they encounter, the kind of the items that they have to keep track of. That helps me stay in line. I also will use the search function in the Word documents to look up, a certain phrase or a certain word in order to make sure that I'm not straying from what I've said before or what the magic does or how it works. How did I develop my world building? Did it begin with maps, history, magic systems, or characters? My world building did begin with a character. It was a very specific wizard that I saw in my mind. I came with a name, and then around that, I did develop the magic system. Then I actually did draw a map to help me locate myself within the world after I had been working at it for a little bit of time.